Welcome to Reflections, a program where we discuss values and virtues for the transformation of the individual and the society in general. I am Father George Ehusani, and I want to say Happy New Year to you all. In this new year, with all the joy and peace and happiness that we anticipate, I want to welcome to the studio Father Robert ACHIAGA, parish priest of
St. Anthony's Catholic Church, Kabusa.
St. Anthony's Catholic Church, Kabusa, in the Archdiocese of Abuja. Father Robert, you are welcome.
Thank you very much,
Father
Father
Robert
George.
is also an auxiliary faculty at Luke Stella, right?
Yes.
Great. Father Robert, it's New Year, and Happy New Year to you.
Oh, Happy New Year and Happy New Year to all those watching. Happy New Year, Nigeria.
Great. We are still in the spirit of Christmas.
Exactly.
For us, Christmas ends with Feast of the Baptism of the Lord, meaning
Sure.
Christmas ends in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
And as we are celebrating the spirit of Christmas into the new year, what are we taking from the message of Christmas, from the theological message of Christmas, beyond the celebrations and the vanities and so on? What are we taking from the real theology of Christmas into the new year?
Oh, thank you very much for having me. At Christmas, we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ.
Correct.
Now, that's the name of a human being. We begin to explore the realm of the theology of Christmas when we remember that this little baby who is human is at the same time God.
Okay.
So Christmas is about God becoming man to live among men for the sake of men. So the question then is, why did God, who is pure spirit, decide to come among men as men? The answer is simple. It is for us men and for our salvation. For us men, he had to become a man. For our salvation, he died on the cross and rose again. So the center point of Christmas is what we call the incarnation. God taking the form of a man in order to save man. There are a host of lessons we can draw out of that. God comes to our own mode of existence, meets us where we are in order to save us from what you will call the human condition. It's a human condition, not a divine condition.
They say the Son of God became a son of man so that the children of men may become children of God.
Exactly. So to elevate us from where we are, our situatedness, God had to descend into our life circumstances, Now, if we are to help in salvaging the negative human condition of one another, we also have to descend into their conditions. There is something dangerous about the leaders of our society being completely separate, cut off from
their
us,
people.
Sometimes our leaders do not know what we are going through. So when you talk about insecurity here, poverty here, and the leader is not aware, you may not blame them. They are not living in our situation. So incarnation, Christmas, God coming to dwell among us.
Talking about a number of the leaders not experiencing what the people are experiencing. You know that in some states, in a number of states, chairmen of local government in remote local government areas, the chairmen live in the city, in the capital city.
Now, talking about that, it's not just chairmen. Many governors of different states in Nigeria live in the FCT. So they are unaware of the real existential conditions of their people. That affects policy. That affects what kind of advice they... In fact, if it were the governors living here and the commissioners living back in the states with their advisors, you might have some hope. But in some cases,
even the
governors are in the Abuja, the commissioners are in Abuja. Okay, we have been talking about, we're talking about flooding, which created something of an existential situation in different states.
Yes.
People were displaced, people died, property damaged amounting to billions.
Yes.
As this was happening, some governors were not in their states.
Yes.
They were holding meetings in the UK, in different parts of the world. Some of them would fly in and out of the country in 2 weeks. So when God comes to dwell with us in order to uplift us from our conditions, we should learn from that.
You know, what we say, we should learn from them about leadership,
Yes.
about what true leadership. Leadership is sacrifice.
And what it takes to change existential conditions.
Leadership is sacrificial service.
Yeah.
Now, when you have a situation where we say there are no roads, the roads are bad, the leaders buy heavy duty SUVs with heavy shock absorbers that are able to ride roughshod through those roads without feeling a thing. He said there is insecurity. The leaders have heavy duty security agents, 5, 6, 10, protecting the leader. And so he's not vulnerable. Because one of the things that Jesus Christ did is to show that the leader should be vulnerable. So the leader, Jesus Christ, felt hunger, felt being chased away, running away to Egypt as a child, felt hunger, felt thirst, was persecuted, was rejected. And so he was a leader that felt the pulse of the people. Now, we have people who are occupying offices who don't feel the pulse of the people. They say, oh, the economy is bad, you need to tighten your belt. We are being taxed and continually being overtaxed. But the leader, our leaders, many of them don't know how much what the food they eat at home, how much it costs, because it's all taken care of by government.
Yes. You know, the letter to the Hebrews, chapter 5, paints this picture of the incarnation, that when Jesus took flesh, right, he became as men are and was tempted in every
way that
so
we are tempted.
He was like us in all things except sin. Now, that is the one who wanted to liberate us from the power of sin, but also from the force of evil, no matter what shape it takes. Now, for our leaders who come and promise they also want to liberate us from all the conditions that lead us to backwardness, are they willing also to be tempted like us in all things so that they can be like those they want to liberate? Pope Francis puts it this way, that shepherds must smell like the sheep.
Yes.
So we have our leaders who in this way of speaking, are our shepherds. Do they smell like the sheep?
You know,
and it's so bad that it is not just politicians who move around with bulletproof
but some
vehicles.
religious leaders too.
Religious leaders too.
I mean, by the time you move around with bulletproof cars, so you are not vulnerable to attack, right? But all your people are vulnerable to attack.
There was a case recently, which I believe you are aware, a religious leader in moving. It was a convoy.
Yeah.
You had policemen.
Who
They
died.
were all killed.
Policemen were killed.
You had,
and the religious leader was saved because he said because he had bulletproof car.
Interestingly, there was only one bulletproof car that had him and his family members, some of his family members. Every other person who was there for him to protect him died. Now, if we live in a society whereby salvation is for only a few, safety is for only a few, and interestingly, those few are those who can influence the lot of the many, because they don't know what vulnerability is about, they will live in denial.
I mean, it's very important to speak about vulnerability. You see, in our country, in recent decades, Christianity has been presented as if it's a religion of power. The religion of the winner. The religion of the overcomer. And so you even see churches bear those names. But the religion of Jesus Christ, from a material human point of view, is not really the religion of the winner. I mean, look at the crucifix, look at the cross of Jesus. That's not a winner from a human point of view. It's a winner from a an eternal point of view, from a supernatural point of view, but not a material point of view.
Well, I'm very happy you raised that vulnerability,
Yes.
and the cross
Yes.
being a symbol of that
vulnerability, of the
not triumphalism.
Not triumphalism.
Now, let's look at, this is a crucifix. If this corpus, the body is no longer there, it's just a cross.
Yes.
The Catholic Church has insisted
That the
that we
body should be
retain the body, the corpus,
Yes.
on the cross.
Yes.
So that the body there reminds us that the cross is not a mere symbol. It is an existential symbol. It's actually an instrument that was used. So what do you now have the challenge of having to deal with a crossless Christianity. Now, you remember in secondary schools many years ago in places like Ireland, the United Kingdom, and currently in Nigeria, in Catholic schools, you hung this cross
in front. Every classroom.
And for Catholics who wear rosaries, having the cross, or just wear the crosses, or for bishops who wear crosses, it is not supposed to be some kind of ornament.
No.
It is supposed to be a message.
Permanent reminder.
It reminds you and reminds the world around you
of the vulnerability that saved the world.
Exactly.
We say that by his wounds we have been healed.
Yeah.
By his stripes we have been made whole. It is on account of his dying on the cross that we have life.
Yes.
It is on account of his embracing vulnerability, embracing weakness, embracing defeat, as it were, that we have become winners. But we are not winners really on the material level.
Not at all.
We are winners on the supernatural level, on the eternal level. But I think there is a serious misunderstanding of this among many Christians.
Oh, definitely there is. And I think it's a problem of how we have presented Christianity to people over the ages. The popular face of Christianity now, which you find in crusades, you find on television, you find in many other platforms for social communication, is not exactly the kind of Christianity that our forebears, beginning from the apostolic age, the church fathers and martyrs, and those who paid the price as missionaries.
We are making it look as if the early church, the church of St. Clement, St. Ignatius of Antioch, and all that, as if they were foolish. They didn't understand Jesus. They didn't understand the triumph that Jesus Christ brought.
As if we just discovered power recently.
Yes.
Listen, the power that Christianity grants to the believer is a power that comes with vulnerability. Yes. So Jesus says something like this to his disciples: they will persecute you for my own sake.
Yes.
Anyone who wants to be a follower of me must first deny himself.
Carry his cross daily.
Carry his cross daily and follow me. You know. So he says, come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. But pay attention to this. He also says, shoulder my yoke. My burden is light. So when you become a Christian, it doesn't mean you have embraced a burdenless life. No. It's just that being a Christian makes the burden light.
Makes the burden light because Jesus is helping you bear it.
Yes. And actually, by coming into this world and taking human form, it is to assure us that he is with us in all our life conditions.
Yeah. Now, does that mean that the Christian is not to enjoy life? You see, because there are people who listen to me and listen to my message and they say, oh, Father George is talking of the cross too much. Is it that, if somebody is a Christian, shouldn't he or she enjoy life? What's your response?
Okay, so it was Jesus who came, taught us to carry our crosses and follow after him, that saw a people who looked hungry, dejected, and
fed them.
let's give them something. Even when his apostles said, we don't have food here, send them away, he said, no, you yourselves give them something to eat. So yes, Jesus is concerned about our material conditions. Jesus has taught us by that he is interested in malaria. He is interested in flooding, which displaces people. And that is why the Archdiocese of Abuja, during this flood crisis in Nigeria,
tried to raise some funds to send to various...
Every church in the Diocese of Abuja raised money, and the monies were sent abroad during this Christmas celebration. Because Christmas is specifically about God deigning to take care of our vulnerability, reach out to us. Every Catholic church has what you call St. Vincent de Paul.
Yeah.
They task and appeal to many people literally begging.
Yes.
They collect bread, they collect rice, they collect cloth, they collect all kinds of things. Then they invite people, Christian and non-Christians, Muslims and Catholics, all people. In fact, let me say all peoples. They gather them together and share this. Now, the interesting thing is, members of St. Vincent, Society of St. Vincent de Paul, who gather to share, many of them are people in dire need.
Themselves.
But they forget their needs in order to take care of the needs of others. Now, the members of St. Vincent de Paul are called servants.
Yes.
Those who come to collect, those in need, are called masters. In Jesus becoming the second person of the Blessed Trinity, becoming human, there is an exchange. What does it mean for God to be pure spirit? It means he's not vulnerable.
Yes.
What does it mean for God to become man? He's vulnerable.
So it means eternity embraced mortality.
Exactly. You see, Archbishop Fulton Sheen puts it in an interesting way. That when God deigned to become a human being, he did not give himself immunity from what human beings experience.
That's it.
So when you deign to become a leader over poor us in Nigeria, do not give yourself immunity from what it means to live in Nigeria now.
Which unfortunately is what a lot of people aspiring for leadership. They want to escape poverty.
No.
They want to escape that vulnerability you are talking about.
Yes.
In fact, that may be the principal motivation for a lot of people going in for politics. Politics is perhaps the easiest way in Nigeria. Public office is about the easiest way to make tons of money. And so, those who have no business whatsoever with the service of the common good, with selfless service, are ending up in politics.
Now, unfortunately, that mode of living that we find in the political space among the political elite has been transplanted from there into the religious realm.
Sadly.
So much so that the measure of the success of a religious leader is also today about how much you have acquired. Religious persons are now very concerned about status. You see, I will say this, I hope I'm wrong about it, but I pray I am not wrong. If you are a religious leader after the heart of Jesus, it is extremely difficult for you to be rich in the sense in which
how can you be rich?
Because
with the thousands of poor people that you are seeing every day, how can you be rich as a religious leader?
Let me repeat it. If you are a religious leader after the mind of Christ,
yes,
it is very difficult for you to personally be rich, because Jesus never looked away in the face of suffering. The woman who was caught in the act of adultery was brought to him, and he was asked, Master, tell us, Moses commanded us to stone her to death. What should we do? He was put in a dilemma. If he said, don't stone her to death, the people would say, you are teaching us to disregard the law of Moses. If he said, let him go, they might interpret it as condoning adultery. Jesus said, well, let any of you who is without sin be the first to cast the stone. It was found that they walked away. meaning they condemned
themselves.
themselves. Then Jesus said, well, woman, go, but do not sin
sin
again. Well, if Jesus was so concerned about his safety from the traps that were set for him, he simply would have allowed those people to have their way.
So that he would be safe.
Exactly. He would be seen to be one promoting the law of Moses. He would have gotten the favor of the religious leaders of the time. What this means is, there is a certain sense in which both the religious elite and the political elite have an exaggerated sense of entitlement that concerns their own safety, their own well-being. When we are excessively concerned about our well-being, we cannot avoid neglecting the well-being of
when we are excessively concerned about our own well-being as religious leaders or political leaders, invariably we will be neglecting the well-being of the people over whom we superintend.
Exactly.
What message, before we close this, what message would you then have from the spirit of Christmas, from the vulnerability of the Son of God becoming Son of Man, from his taking on our suffering, taking on our pains, and the exemplar of leadership that is service and self-sacrifice? What message do you have for both political and religious leaders in Nigeria? In summary.
First of all, you would notice that there has been a change in the language about Christmas. Instead of people and institutions saying Merry Christmas, they now say Happy Holidays.
Oh, that's to say the secular society has taken over the language.
But in Christmas, you have Christ.
Correct.
What is the meaning of Christ? Christos. It means Savior or Messiah.
Mm-hmm.
So the one who is born in Christmas, at Christmas,
yes,
it has come not just as Jesus, but he has come as the Christ, the Messiah. So when we talk about Christmas and celebrate Christmas, let us remember that we are to become little or mini messiahs to one another.
Mm-hmm. We are to be messiahs to one another.
And to be a messiah to one another comes with some form of vulnerability, sacrifice.
So every leader, whether religious or political, that there is bad road in his or her village, and all he or she does is how to get the biggest jeep that can ride through the bad road without being hurt. Every leader that thinks that what he has to do in the face of widespread insecurity is to buy a bulletproof car. What are you telling them?
Well, let me step away from the normal Christian parlance and borrow one of Nigeria's musicians. He says, those we no get go become problem to those we get. So as you seek your own personal salvation and you alone, and you forget the salvation of others, understand that the unsaved can become a problem to the few who are saved.
They say the rich cannot sleep because the poor are hungry. On this note, we'll be bringing this segment to an end. I've been speaking to Reverend Father Robert ACHIAGA, a parish priest in the Archdiocese of Abuja, and we've been discussing Christmas and its implication, especially the implications of the vulnerability of the Son of God who took on suffering, who took on pain on our behalf. Discussing this and how can we be leaders in the name of Christianity and neglect our people while taking care of our own welfare. May all Christians who are in leadership positions, may we give example to the rest of our society of how to be leaders after the manner of Christ.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Thank you very much.